Have you ever met a doctor who could diagnose every disease except their own burnout? Imagine wearing a white coat, saving lives, yet quietly losing your own sense of life inside. That's the hidden epidemic sweeping through hospital halls, Dr. Burnout, and it's far more spiritual than most care to admit. What if I told you that healing doesn't always start with medicine, but with faith? Sounds counterintuitive, right? But stay with me, because this story might just challenge everything you thought you knew about recovery, resilience, and God's purpose in medicine. This isn't just another self-care for doctors' pep talk. This is a faith-driven comeback, a journey from total exhaustion to renewed empowerment, guided by prayer, purpose, and a deep rediscovery of calling. Whether you're a healthcare worker running on fumes, a Christian doctor trying to balance faith and medicine, or someone searching for meaning beyond the stethoscope, this message is for you. Because spiritual healing isn't separate from science, it's the heartbeat behind it. In this story, you'll walk alongside a doctor who nearly gave up, until faith stepped into the ICU of his soul. You'll see how faith in healthcare can restore not just patients but the healers themselves. How Christian doctors are reclaiming their sense of calling, finding purpose in healthcare, and overcoming exhaustion through prayer, surrender, and divine renewal. This isn't just about surviving hospital life. It's about rediscovering why you started in the first place. Ready to see how burnout turns into blessing? Let's begin. The hidden weight behind the white coat. Behind every confident smile of a doctor lies a story untold. The sleepless nights, the emotional fatigue, the quiet prayers whispered in sterile corridors. Many Christian healthcare workers find themselves torn between compassion and exhaustion, driven by their calling but drained by its demands. The pressure to always be strong can make faith feel distant, as if God's voice gets lost in the constant hum of hospital machines. Yet, even in this silence, faith in healthcare becomes the unseen thread holding weary hearts together. You see, burnout isn't just physical, it's spiritual erosion. When a doctor's purpose fades, every shift feels heavier, every diagnosis emptier. Many physicians have admitted to feeling like healers who can't heal themselves. That's when faith and medicine must meet again, not as separate worlds, but as one integrated path to spiritual healing. Reconnecting with prayer, reflection, and divine purpose doesn't just restore the mind, it revives the soul behind the stethoscope. Take, for example, a doctor who began writing short morning prayers before work. At first it felt strange, like a luxury she couldn't afford. But over time, she noticed how her faith-based encouragement reshaped her focus. Her patients weren't just cases anymore, they were reminders of God's purpose in medicine. It's small habits like this, daily devotion, gratitude journaling, silent prayers before rounds, that slowly lift the hidden weight of burnout. And yet, as faith begins to heal the cracks, something deeper calls from within. When calling turns into a cage. At first, medicine feels like a divine calling, a sacred mission to heal, serve, and bring hope. But for many Christian doctors, that very calling can begin to feel like a cage. The long hours, impossible expectations, and relentless pace can twist purpose into pressure. What once felt like God's invitation becomes a burden that steals joy, sleep, and peace. This is where many begin to question, did I misunderstand my healthcare calling? Is this really what God's purpose in medicine looks like? In truth, purpose doesn't vanish. It gets buried beneath survival mode. The problem isn't the calling, it's forgetting who called you. Some medical professionals of faith chase perfection, trying to earn divine approval through performance. But faith doesn't demand perfection, it invites partnership. When doctors allow faith at work to guide them, the hospital becomes more than a workplace. It becomes a ministry. A simple prayer before entering a patient's room or a whispered, "Lord, help me bring peace here," transforms duty into devotion. One doctor I knew started scheduling faith breaks, just 5 minutes in a quiet corner to breathe, pray, and refocus. It wasn't much, but it was enough to turn exhaustion into empowerment. That's the paradox. The less control you grasp for, the more peace you gain. As this truth sinks in, another question rises. If faith can free the mind, can it also heal the heart still carrying silent wounds? Healing the healer, the faith prescription. When a doctor falls ill, the instinct is to treat the symptoms. But what if the real ailment is soul deep? For many Christian healthcare workers, burnout isn't cured by a vacation or fewer shifts. It's cured by a spiritual reset, a moment of surrender that realigns heart and purpose. Faith and medicine intersect here beautifully. Where science ends, spiritual healing begins. The greatest recovery story often starts when a doctor admits, "I can't do this alone." That's when faith under pressure turns into power under grace. A surgeon once said he found more peace during his 5 minutes of morning prayer than in all his years of medical success. That pause became his burnout recovery routine, not an escape, but a lifeline. For others, joining prayer groups or Christian healthcare devotion circles helped them rediscover community and connection. These simple acts renew the emotional resilience that hospital life tends to strip away. Because when faith enters the ward, healing flows both ways, through doctor and patient alike. This is where emotional healing for healthcare workers takes root, in honest reflection, confession, and connection with God. Faith doesn't remove the stress, but it changes how one stands beneath it. It transforms exhaustion into empathy and fear into fuel for compassion. But as doctors begin to heal, another challenge arises. How can they sustain this renewed faith amid constant chaos and keep their hearts steady in the storm? Faith under pressure, standing firm in the storm. Hospitals are not quiet chapels. They're battlegrounds of emotion, urgency, and endless demands. And yet, it's right there, in the chaos, that faith in healthcare must prove itself. Many Christian doctors discover that the real test of their calling isn't in medical school or during long shifts. It's in staying anchored when everything seems to fall apart. When you face loss, impossible decisions, or moral fatigue, faith under pressure becomes more than a phrase. It becomes survival. Think of a young resident who, after losing her patient, whispered a prayer through tears instead of shutting down. That small act didn't erase her grief, but it reminded her that God still walked those halls. That's what faith-based encouragement does. It keeps the light on when logic fails. For Christian healthcare workers, it's not about preaching in the ICU. It's about practicing presence, showing compassion, integrity, and grace, even when no one's watching. It's about remembering that God's purpose in medicine includes you too. But let's be honest, holding on to hope in hospital life isn't easy. Some days, faith feels fragile, like a candle flickering in a drafty room. Yet even a flicker pushes back darkness. The key is to nurture it daily. Prayer on your commute, a Bible verse on your desk, or simply a moment of gratitude after rounds. It's in these moments that burnout loses its grip and purpose grows roots again. Still, there's one more piece. How does a doctor move from surviving to leading with faith, becoming a beacon for others on this same weary road? From survival to service, faith that inspires others. When a doctor moves from exhaustion to empowerment, the journey doesn't end, it multiplies. Those who've experienced burnout recovery through faith in healthcare often become living testimonies of grace in action. They start mentoring younger physicians, leading Christian inspiration groups in hospitals, or simply offering quiet words of faith-based encouragement in break rooms. Their stories remind others that healing isn't a destination, it's a daily walk with God. And through that walk, healthcare spirituality finds its true purpose, not just curing bodies, but restoring hearts. Take, for example, a physician who began hosting short prayer for healthcare workers sessions online. What started with 5 colleagues grew into a global community of Christian doctors and nurses praying together before shifts. That ripple effect turned hospital fatigue into a network of purpose-driven life renewal. These acts of faith at work don't just help the healers. They inspire patients, families, and even skeptics to see medicine as ministry. Because every act of compassion becomes a sermon in motion. In the end, empowered doctors carry more than medical degrees. They carry hope. They model what it means to live out God's calling for doctors, blending science with spirit, duty with devotion. When faith and purpose intertwine, burnout transforms into boldness. And those who were once drowning in exhaustion rise as beacons of light for others still struggling in the dark. But the real question remains, will we have the courage to take that first step toward faith-filled restoration ourselves? So now take a deep breath and ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly alive in your calling? Not just competent, not just busy, but connected, purposeful, at peace. If you've ever felt the weight of Dr. Burnout, remember this: even healers need healing. Faith in healthcare isn't about adding religion to your routine. It's about rediscovering your reason, your divine why. God never called you to exhaustion. He called you to excellence through grace. Imagine what could happen if every hospital hallway echoed with quiet prayers, if every Christian doctor saw their rounds as a form of worship, and every act of care as part of God's purpose in medicine. What if the next time you felt weary, you didn't push harder, you prayed deeper? The transformation begins when you believe that your spiritual health matters just as much as your medical skill. Because when faith and medicine unite, miracles happen, not just in patients, but in practitioners too. So here's my challenge to you. Take one step today. Start a prayer group. Read a verse before your shift. Share a word of Christian motivation with a colleague. Let your faith breathe again, even under pressure. And if this message stirred something in your heart, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Let's keep walking this journey together, restoring faith, renewing purpose, and reclaiming the soul of healthcare, one heart at a time.